Hello, hello. We are back to Sikich Live on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. Well, I guess beautiful in Chicago anyway. Throw into the chat where you're from, and then curious to have this question answered that is relating to our topic today. What do you want to see your personal consumer bank do better? Perhaps you're looking for more promotions, better service, more personalized service. How can your bank be better? So while you're answering that, Sikich Live is brought to you once a week, each Thursday at 2:30 p.m. Central Time. So make sure to like and subscribe from whichever platform you're watching from, LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube. Next week, we're taking a small break for the 4th of July weekend, but don't worry, we're not going to leave you without some excellent Sikich content, of course. We'll be broadcasting a recorded session on moving your ERP to the cloud. Again, would love to have some engagement here in the chat. So relating to our topic, what do you want to see your personal consumer bank do better? Looking for better service, more personalized service. So today's topic, we're going to introduce the Sikich Live series to more industry-focused content around retail banking. So if you're not in the retail banking industry, you're surely affected by it as a consumer. So a lot of this could be interesting content for yourself as well. Glad to have Mr. Matt Mountain here with us. He's a partner within the Sikich Salesforce practice. Hey, Matt.
Thanks for having me.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. It's a beautiful day here in Cincinnati.
Oh, perfect.
Yes.
Good. Yeah, if you want to introduce yourself quickly, that'd be great.
Sure. Yeah. So I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for about 14 years now. I've been using CRM systems for 25, but really been focused on financial services for the past 10 years, and have worked with a lot of different types of financial services organizations in implementing Salesforce and its various technologies within that industry.
Great. Well, thanks so much for being here with us today, Matt, and answering all my questions. So let's, I guess, jump right into it, right? So on the topic of retail banking here we have today, what's one trend that you see in banking? And then given the nature of industries changing so rapidly in today's world, how do you see that changing?
So, yeah, I think one trend that we're seeing a lot of as we talk to different banks is what I call customer 360. And it's funny is that, I've been with a credit card company for years, and I still get offers from them to open a credit card. And they don't really know who I am. And so from a banking perspective, we're really starting to see banks that want to get a 360-degree view of that customer, either that individual, their spouse, the household, but what products do they have and how have they been interacting with them? And that's really a trend that I see that's really come on, but I really see this going on for a long time, because with all the proliferation of systems out there, it's more than just maybe bringing in core data to really get a view as to what that customer looks like and what products they have. So that's probably one of the many trends that are out there, but one that we see a lot of customers want to take advantage of. So.
Absolutely. And so do you see that changing in the future?
Well, yes and no. I don't see the trend changing. There may be other trends, but as more systems get added as part of the infrastructure, they're going to want to integrate those systems in to get even a better picture of that customer. So I see the trend continuing and just continuing to be more and more important, so that you can really, as they say in the wealth space, KYC, know your client, so that banks have the ability to do that too.
So can you go into a little bit more detail about why this is a trend now?
Yeah, and I'm going to age myself, but that's okay. So, when I got into tech a few years ago, integration.
Just a few.
Just a few, yeah.
Yep.
Integration was very tough. and integrating with these back end, and specifically in the banking space, the core systems was very hard to do. Well, now as these banking products are going online, they're opening up their API, they're really making that integration easier to do. And again, keyword less costly, right? Or keywords, so that it doesn't take a king's ransom in order to pass data between your core system and your CRM system. So that now that they're opening up those APIs and they can pass that data, that's really why it is becoming a trend. Core systems do a great job at what they do, but the front-facing customer, really the know your customer and the interactions, they're not designed for that. So that core integration is really key.
So which groups within the bank are really impacted by this new Customer 360 model and trend?
Well, gosh, marketing, sales, and service. They can all be impacted. And let's just take marketing, for example. If you know who your customer is, and for example, what they like, what products they have, you can develop marketing to, for example, this is really basic, but I want to develop a campaign to everybody that's got a checking but not a savings, or a mortgage but not a home equity, and you can go on and on. And the nice thing about it is the technology is such that if John Smith, the consumer, gets a mortgage, they can automatically be added to a campaign. It's not like somebody has to go in there and remember to do it. The system is smart enough to say, okay, they have this, but not this. Let's add them to that campaign and really start dripping that message out to them.
So starting with marketing here, how are they using this data? And follow-up question to that, what are the ways that they can use this data better?
So, they're using the data marketing. And again, there always used to be one channel, email. Well, there's chat. What are we on? We're on LinkedIn, Facebook. There's all these channels now. So as you get to know your customers and know more about them, you can start targeting them on the channel that's best for them. And that may be text. They may not even want email anymore. Now, I like email, but younger people like text, okay? And don't get me wrong, I like text too. But, what's the right channel to message them at? And ironically, I was at the bank 2 hours ago. We had to fill out some paperwork and all that. And it wasn't a great, it was an okay experience. I'm not going to name the bank or anything like that, but I was hoping they'd have all the paperwork ready for us and all that. And we get there and they have to ask us more questions. And so they didn't really know us, even though they knew we were coming in to deal with some paperwork. But from a marketing, the more and more, again, you know about that person, the much better off you're going to be from a marketing standpoint.
It's all about that personalized service, right?
Yes, it is.
So what about sales and service? Let's dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah. So, when you think about, bankers all have quotas or certain numbers to hit. And oftentimes they may need to have so many of these types of loans, so many of those types of loans. And again, if you know your customer and you're going to go meet with your customer, if you have that information, you're going to be able to have a much better discussion with them. So, again, this applies to commercial, this applies to retail. And a lot of times banks are tracking their pipeline of new opportunities on a spreadsheet. So how do you aggregate that? And how do you report on that? And so how does all that reporting go up to the top? Well, it's very tough. But for example, if I know more about the customer or prospect, and I use marketing automation and other tools to market, that feedback comes back into my CRM system. The lead gets assigned to me. I can now create sales opportunities and really track what I'm doing to try to close that sale, whether that's a loan or what have you, a credit card. But it's all about having that data in there so that, if the same person reaches out 10 times for a loan, at some point you go, look, you're not interested, and you don't waste your time on that person. But if you're tracking all that in Excel, it's very tough to do.
Absolutely. So where's all this sales reporting done?
Everywhere.
Right. Yeah.
It's done in Excel. It's done in Access. It's done, you name it. And one of the things with sales reporting is that you can do it in CRM too. And one of the things that is very popular these days, and we're in a number of discussions, is around building an incentive or a compensation model in Salesforce. So some people have very basic rules. If you sell 5 of these, you get X, and others have very complicated rules in terms of what compensation is. But when you think about it from a retail banking or a banking standpoint, tellers can provide leads, bankers can follow up on those leads. So oftentimes there's multiple types of incentives that you want to track. Bankers have them, but tellers have them, and maybe other people have them. So if I'm a teller and you come in with a big deposit, I may want to refer it to the wealth group and get $10, right? Well, you can now track that and build that model in Salesforce, or that's an option. You got to look at the rules to see how easy or complex it is. But we're in a lot of discussions around building those sales reporting / incentive models in Salesforce, because quite honestly, if I'm a banker and I come in the morning, where am I compared to where should I be? That's what I want to see. So,
right. So, kind of going back to this core system, is that the only system that's integrated? There's got to be more, right?
Yeah, I mean, there could be more. So, if you're applying for a loan, there could be a loan origination system, where you're filling out all your paperwork and all that. But when you think about a CRM system, you've got Outlook or Gmail. You've got a phone system. Gosh, wouldn't it be nice if when I called the bank and put in whatever I got to put in, they'd pick it up and go, hello, Matt, how can I help you today? No, they pick up and go, can you give me your social security number again? Right. I mean, so if you integrate the phone system, so there's a number of things that you can integrate in order to really make the experience better, whether they're back office systems or more just day-to-day systems. But also think about it from a servicing standpoint. So when you call the bank, and let's say one of your kids overdraws their account. Well, it's only happened to me twice this week. So, but instead of calling, I can go online and do a few things. But when I call, if I were to call, and I didn't have to repeat everything 3 times to get somebody, and they could help me out and say, hey, by the way, you ought to really take this service of ours to prevent that in the future. Well, sign me up. Well, all of a sudden your service person turns into a salesperson. So sales can be done both by your sales and your servicing group. And by having that information together, that's the power of getting it centralized and really do the customer 360.
Absolutely. So what systems are banks using to manage their processes and all this paperwork?
A lot. Boy, I mean, there's new systems popping up all the time in order to manage that. There's a lot of legacy systems. One of the things about Salesforce that you can do is you can build out business processes. So a business process is such that when I come in and do this, it then assigns a task to you for you to do something. And then when you do it, somebody else has to do something. So you can build a whole process for whatever and see exactly for that customer, where are you? so that you can manage to that. So, when you think about process, there could be a gazillion processes out there. So how do you build those? And, again, there's no silver bullet on what is the best system for process. It really comes down to what are your requirements for that. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Excellent, Matt. Well, I don't have very many questions for you. Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
No, I appreciate you having me on. And, again, it's just, whether you're in, retail or commercial or, what have you, knowing your customer is just so important these days, because quite honestly, it's embarrassing when I get, as I mentioned, those emails and I'm already a customer of theirs and they don't have a clue. And I'm like, well, I've only been with you 20 years, but, so it's just, there's a lot of data out there, and boy, if you can centralize it to have a better customer experience, it'll pay off big time.
Absolutely. And Sikich is here to help with that. How can we help? Let's discuss it. Feel free to reach out through any of these platforms into our direct messages, private messages, or email info@sikich.com, and we can discuss this a little bit further and more specialized for your company. Matt, it really has been a pleasure speaking with you. Thanks for answering all of my questions today.
Cool.
And again, to our viewers, we want to hear from you. We want to hear what you are looking for in these types of live streams and live events. So feel free to comment on that as well. And again, next week, we will not be here. We're going to have a recorded session about moving your ERP to the cloud. So make sure to stay tuned for that, Thursdays at 2:30 Central Time. Like and subscribe. Thanks again, Matt, and we'll see you all in a couple weeks. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.